We are looking forward our way from Studio C in the 511 studios in the Brewery District, just south of downtown Columbus, Ohio. Hi, this is Brett. Carol and I are at the studio while our guest is joining us remotely today for a very important topic, food insecurity in our community.
Brett, today we are featuring a unique program that is blending community activism with supporting the local food bank system here in Central Ohio. The Garden for All is based in New Albany, Ohio. Brett, let's welcome Beth NeCamp, the new executive director of Garden for All.
Hi, Carol. Hi, Brett. Thank you so much for having me.
You have an extensive background in communications, marketing, and community engagement, promoting healthcare programs at The Ohio State University's Wexner Medical Center. Your expertise brings a very unique perspective to the issues of food instability and the lack of affordable, available, nutritious food. Let's discuss your background and what brought you to the Garden for All.
Thank you. I would say that while I was at Ohio State's Wexner Medical Center, and my most recent role was Executive Director of Community Outreach and Engagement, we really started to address how the social determinants of health impacted people's health outcomes. So the doctors and the nurses in all of our hospitals do a fabulous job of treating illness and disease when it's presented. But when people go back to homes where they don't have healthy foods to sustain them, where perhaps they don't live in a safe neighborhood, or a myriad of other social needs and problems, it really is responsible. We felt really responsible, starting to feel responsible for that part of health too. And so one of the big social determinants of health is food insecurity or food instability, as you mentioned. And so that's really where I started to get interested and to see the real impact on people's health and all the way to their life expectancy. I mean, there's certain zip codes in Columbus. So for example, the life expectancy in Bexley is almost 20 years greater than the life expectancy on the Near East Side. Mm-hmm. And that's a mile difference. And so that's not okay. And so I think it takes all of us in the community to do something to narrow that gap and hopefully eliminate that gap so that we all can enjoy the best health possible.
Right. It's that looking at preventative versus proactive. Reactive, or to try to get the healthiest food you can to maybe help stave off what might be inevitable, but at the same time, just a healthier lifestyle.
So many diseases, one of the risk factors is your diet, diabetes, heart disease, stroke, cancer. I really just think that this is really important to all of us. And I was grateful to find an organization that I really found to be so innovative. One of the things I did late in my career is I went back and got my master's at Ohio State in a program called Healthcare Innovation. And so I just was really intrigued by what the Garden for All was doing and how they were kind of disrupting the supply chain in some ways, and also creating a unique solution to having healthy foods in our neighborhoods.
It seems, Beth, that the whole food pantry system has taken huge leaps and bounds of progress in opening up our vision of what food stability really is. It used to be just people bringing canned goods to the food pantry, and whoever needed something, they were pretty much kind of stuck with whatever was available. And now you're bringing even a larger perspective with that medical background, taking a look at, well, we not only want to give people nutritious food so that they can live a healthier life, but if something happens and they're in the hospital and they need to go home, they need to be in a spot where they're not going to end up back in the hospital again, and be able to actually get through their illness and recovery and do well.
Really,
so that
right. Really, it's food is medicine. is really
Very true.
the crux of that.
Very
And I
true.
think too, with I was retired for a year, and I had the opportunity to do some volunteering in the community. I really wanted to kind of dabble and see where my interests really lie. And one of the places I volunteered was a food pantry. So it helped me to see kind of to see how the choice pantry.
Mm-hmm.
I also had been on the board and a board chair at one point of St. Stephen's Community House in my career, and they have a really fabulous pantry as well. So really being able to see how people really want the fresh produce, and when it is available, how almost everybody would always choose it.
Mm-hmm.
So that to me is really encouraging about what our mission is.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So, the Garden for All, I'm guessing a whole lot of folks haven't heard of this. I'm
Right.
finding it just fascinating, and it has a really interesting backstory, bringing together the community during a worldwide pandemic. So, what was going on in New Albany that led to the creation of the garden?
Yeah, so the garden was founded by Catherine Duffy and Sean Duffy, and they are members of the All Saints Episcopal Church, which is in New Albany. And so during the pandemic, they really saw how more and more people were becoming food insecure. And with our problems with our supply chain, they realized that people weren't able to get food that needed it. And so we just had this increased need, increased more barriers to getting it. And they felt just the calling to do something about it. And so All Saints had land that they then allowed Catherine and Sean to start growing on. And so that's really how it started in 2019, right during maybe 2020, well, right during the pandemic. And so it's grown to this year, or in 2023, they donated over 8,000 pounds of produce to the area pantries, which is really 40,000 servings of produce to people in Central Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
And so it really started as to say a seed of an idea, and has really grown to be really a force that we see having so much opportunity to grow even further.
Mm-hmm.
And the other part of it, in addition to providing food, is really to provide a sense of community among the people that were going to the church, but also the people living in New Albany. If you remember, it was so isolating during the pandemic. And so how do we bring people together outside doing something that they can work together and form friendships? And so those are really the two-prong approach that led to the beginning of it, and I would say have really come to fruition in very large ways. For example, we have over 250 volunteers, and many return volunteers that come back to see friends that they've made. We host different corporate teams that like to bring their employees out to dig in the dirt, and to also learn about the need our community has for providing fresh food to people where many parts of our city have food deserts.
Right. Well, Central Ohio has a very strong food pantry partnership system. Mid-Ohio Food Collective covers a 20-county region. It's providing 170,000 meals each day. The collective is a pantry, but also a hub for activities needed to end hunger, one nourishing meal at a time, they say. However, the collective can't do the work alone. There's an important role for local groups to support the mission of providing wholesome, affordable, and available food in our region. How does the mission of the garden fit into this plan?
I would say we have a shared mission of really fighting hunger and growing community. And so with Mid-Ohio, they've been very supportive, and they offer consulting and advice to people that have gardens, and they actually have gardens themselves that are growing a lot of their own produce also. And so I would just see them as being a really great partner and supporter of our work. And so many of the most all pantries get their food and produce from the Mid-Ohio Food Collective, but there's greater need. And so individual farmers are donating their produce, and then we have really formed a business model to donate 100% of our produce to the food pantries.
Mm-hmm. Catherine and her husband have done this with a really small core structure of Garden for All. You're the first official executive director, and congratulations again on this great opportunity. Tell us about your role as the director, as well as the other leaders of the organization, and what is it that's going to be on your plate growing and achieving over the next year?
Yeah, I think we really want to be able to increase our impact in the community. And really one way, so they've really, I think one of my big charges is to expand the Garden for All. And that will be in many different kind of creative ways. One way, so Sean Duffy is our chief grower, and he has received already a grant from the USDA, and we will be implementing what they call high tunnel system. And so this will allow us to grow in the winter. And so that was a direct response to the need of the pantry, saying it was really hard to get fresh produce in the winter for their customers. And so for example, you think about expansion, obviously, and getting new plots of land, which we're definitely looking at, and through partnerships, but also expanding the months that we can grow is another way also. And so I'll be looking to expand our partnerships with those in the community who have similar missions. Also looking to expand our volunteer base. So as we go out into right now, a lot of even though our produce is distributed across Central Ohio, many of our volunteers are from New Albany and Gahanna area. So as we go into new communities, we would want to have a partner that has a nice volunteer base. So it's really the land and the volunteers that really make up and kind of the process. And I would say also really trying to kind of systemize more of what we do in the sense of when you grow and get bigger, a lot of times maybe manual processes aren't as efficient as maybe doing more things online or digital and that type of thing. And also with my background in communications, really telling our story to more people and to really so that more and more people want to get involved. And frankly, also, we want more people to give because that's how we fund our mission. We're 100% funded by donors, grants, and, corporate donors as well.
So the garden's a great opportunity for volunteers who enjoy the outdoors, obviously, it's, until you start to do the indoor stuff, and want to sink their hands into some dirt and provide an important contribution to the community. Let's talk about how many volunteers you have, and also what does a volunteer work day look like? What can they expect? What could draw in different types of volunteers? Maybe it's not just putting hands in dirt, but I'm sure there are other pieces to this that you need help with, as well as what a day looks like.
The volunteers, like right now, are planting. So they're in the garden and planting. And then once we have produce and vegetables to pick, they're picking the vegetables. And then we have a system of packaging. So some people will be responsible for packaging the produce so that it's kind of an package like you would see in a store. And that there's, kind of strict rules around that and labeling and that type of thing. And then we have delivery to the pantry. So those are some of, you didn't want to get dirty, you could do the packaging or you could do the delivery. We also have a flower garden, kind of a cutting garden. And so we have people that come and arrange the flowers into bouquets that we take out to farmer markets. And we use those just to kind of promote our organization and ask for a donation. We don't sell any of our produce. And the bouquet, we also donate the bouquets to the pantries because we want customers of the pantries to enjoy a beautiful flower arrangement on their tables also. And so there really are different roles for people. The garden has done a nice job connecting with the OSU Master Gardener program. And so many of our volunteers come from that organization. So, as a master gardener, I understand you need to have so many hours of volunteer, and we're kind of a official site for that. And so, that's really exciting for us to have that level of expertise in our garden along with Sean.
I love Sean's email newsletters that he's sending out, and he'll tell everybody, okay, here's the schedule. So unfortunately, we've had a lot of rain this week, and
Right.
so he's banking on Saturday to be good weather and
Yes,
getting
yes.
those volunteers out. So he's really the cheerleader back there, getting people to get in there and help put the seeds in the ground.
Right, right. He's as a chief grower. His background really is his father was quite the gardener and has land and was really has just a foundational knowledge based on learning and kind of growing up in that environment. And so, and in addition to his foundational knowledge, just a real passion. And both he and Catherine do, and also really a strong foundation in their faith that um, all people deserve to have the best the land has to offer.
Oh,
And I'll
yes.
say that really was a draw to me too in choosing this organization to spend some time with post retirement. Is just the mission is just so powerful. And although um, our current garden is on the All Saints Church, it's open to all people to volunteer, regardless of faith and regardless of background. This is a place everybody can come to help those in need.
Hmm. What a wonderful message too, and it kind of goes right with my next question because Central Ohioans see New Albany sort of in a different light. Like, why would there be a food pantry in New Albany, or why would anybody in New Albany be concerned about a food stability? But this is really showing how the folks in New Albany, just like the rest of our community in Central Ohio, are truly worried about each other. And so from Catherine and Sean, they really put their heads together and came up with an incredible way to give back to the community, get people out of their houses, breathe in fresh air, even during a pandemic, and do something of value for everyone else. And so this kind of goes right into my next question. New Albany is an affluent area, and but they have been the folks in New Albany have been incredibly supportive as volunteers. The city has been supportive, and other partners. Tell us a little bit about all the other partners you're working with.
Sure, sure. So yes, our Garden for All is located in New Albany, even though we share our produce with food pantries throughout the city. So some of the food pantries, one is the New Albany Food Pantry that's run by Healthy New Albany. And they have just been a fabulous partner. Healthy New Albany has done a nice, really great service to us by promoting our volunteer opportunities and also helping to promote a lot of our programming. So New Albany does have a food pantry. We do have suburban poverty in many areas of our community. Another partner is Gahanna Residents in Need called Grin. So that is also kind of located nearby. We also work with Broad Street Presbyterian Food Pantry and an organization called Motherful, and they also offer free food to their members who are in need. And so, yes, New Albany's been a fabulous place to have our home base because of the volunteers and because of the commitment to folks. But I would say the similar thing with Gahanna and with other partners as well. Really just great feedback and about what their customers are looking for and want, and just really grateful when we show up with our produce at their pantry. It's really been a nice partnership and collaboration across kind of the whole food insecurity ecosystem, if you will. One of our other missions, in addition to providing for the food pantry, is education. And so one of our big events every year is we have a sow and grow event, and that where we invite different customers from the food pantries to come to the garden and grow container gardens with vegetables that they then take home and nurture throughout the summer. So everybody will leave with tomato plants, green beans, and lettuce, along with the instructions from our team on how to grow them and how to take care of them and where to put them in your yard or on your balcony or whatever. And so I think really the education piece is as important as providing the food itself. Some of the other programs we offer are for children. We have a children's garden party just to get them interested at a young age in gardening and growing your own food, kind of that self-sustaining. And then also we have events where we partner with other organizations at their events. So just lots of education. I know in the spring they did a seed starting class where, show how we start the seeds in a kind of protected growing environment and then transplant them outside. So we really are grateful for our partners in New Albany and Gahanna and look forward to build even more partnerships as we grow our organization.
Beth, I had some discussions with Catherine Duffy, who's the co-founder of the Garden for All, and I was really struck by the additional value that was added to this process. The founders believe that everyone's table should not only include a great meal, but that added warmth of flowers on their table. To me, I just found that to be so incredible and insightful that the Garden for All would think about that. Can you tell us a little bit more? You've mentioned about the flowers. Tell us a little bit more about how that sort of started and where it's going now.
I think that there, in the garden community, people are interested in growing flowers. And so I think it was just an idea that maybe a volunteer had to say, why don't we grow the flowers too? But really just kind of acknowledging that all of us are equally deserving of the very best that the land has to offer. And so having the flowers on our grounds and then being able to offer them in the pantries is something that we have been told by the pantry managers is just such a welcome surprise and just really a feel-good moment when people see those in their boxes or bags when they're picking up their groceries. So I think I mentioned that this organization is just really innovative. And I would say that I think that comes from an openness of ideas that wherever they're coming from. And also, I think that's what a lot of our volunteers love to come because they really feel part of the organization and part of our future. So I just think, if some of us enjoy the beauty of flowers, all of us should be able to.
Well,
Right.
as most gardeners would say, there's always room for one more plant. One more plant. So you can always put a flower in a spot. It's like, let's put a flower there if you can't
Exactly.
put a big,
Sure.
always.
And we have some wonderful volunteers who are very talented in arranging the bouquets and putting them together. And it's allowed us to really have kind of a whole nother group of volunteers with special talents. So that's fun too.
Yeah, exactly. The term gardener is a dual purpose, vegetable and flower. It's a gardener. It just is. So yeah,
It's a garden for all, right?
Yeah,
Exactly.
It pulls into different type of volunteers.
Yeah.
Exactly. You bet. Well, our listeners may be in need of additional assistance in their daily food needs or know of somebody in need. Are there resources you provide to those who contact your office?
We would direct people who would call in need to most likely the Mid-Ohio Food Collective website or their organization. They have a really great listing and a database of all the different pantries and their hours, et cetera, around the city. We also know there's a lot of resources in the city, at the libraries, for example, connecting people to resources in the community. And so we don't provide individuals with produce, but we provide it to the pantries. And so we would direct them to where they could get that food on an ongoing basis.
Mm-hmm. We are so lucky in our community to have the Mid-Ohio Food Collective. They do a phenomenal job, and that really is probably top of the list of places to call for help.
Yes, I would agree 100%.
So, Beth, our podcasts, we always say they go quickly, and we have so much information and so much to talk about. But one of the things that we always do is to tell our guests that here's your chance for your last words of wisdom. What would you like to make sure that you've had an opportunity to tell the audience, and any other ideas that you have that could be helpful to them or someone they know?
Yeah, I guess I would tell listeners to get involved. There's so many ways to help in our community, and there's so many needs, and there's so many ways to share your gifts. So if you have a passion or you have an interest, just go for it. And I think that I've just been so impressed by the number of volunteers in our community that are just doing a lot of heavy lifting for our community overall. And I don't know that I had visibility into it as much when I was working. And then once I retired and became a volunteer myself, but now getting more involved in the nonprofit space, I've just really would encourage people to donate their gifts in what they feel passionate about. And you really can make a difference, really just one and two people at a time.
Right. Very, very nice. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, many thanks to our expert guest, Beth NeCamp, Executive Director of the Garden for All, for joining us today. Listeners, thank you for joining us. And don't forget to check out our show notes on the website for contact information and the resources we have discussed today. You can find all that information at lookingforwardourway.com. And we're looking forward to hearing your feedback on this or any of our other podcast episodes.